everybody, it's Jason Blaha with Ice Cream Fitness here, and once again it is time for the Monday Q&A. Today I'm going to do something different. I'm going to go ahead and leave my glasses on because it gets really annoying trying to read all of these questions on the screen without them. So I'm going to go ahead and leave them on this time. But hold on, let me give you guys a bicep shot first. Alright, and let's get right into these questions. And guys, I am sorry if I did not get to your question. I had so many good questions today that I just kind of went through and just picked some of the better ones to do these videos with today, because honestly there were probably 50 questions or more available for me today that I could have very happily and very easily turned into video questions, but it's just too many to answer. So you guys are getting really good at some of these questions that you ask. Alright, first question. What is the best form for a barbell row? Straight up and down, pulled at an angle to the lower abs, bar below or above the knee. First of all, one of the things that makes me cringe, when I see people doing barbell rows and they pull them at an angle, like the bar is moving 30 degrees from the floor, up and down, up their thigh, because honestly, there's no way you can use anywhere near an appreciable amount of weight on that. Generally, you should be able to barbell row as much as you bench press. If you cannot barbell row for a full range of motion, whatever you bench press, then obviously there's something weird with your technique, or you have a severe muscle imbalance. So that angle that people do, it makes me just throw my hands up when I see people do it. And you should generally be pulling 90 degrees from the floor. The bar should be going straight up and down 90 degrees from the floor. I would say, as far as where to pull it to, definitely not your lower abs, maybe your upper abs, depending on what you're trying to do. If you're doing it for bodybuilding purposes, that's perfectly acceptable. If you are doing it to improve your bench press, partially as a bench press accessory, you need to pull the bar to wherever you touch the bar on your chest with the bench press, which is generally going to be down here at the lower chest. Now, as far as above or below the knee, you should be going all the way down. If you should be stretching at the bottom. At the bottom of a barbell row, your scapula should pull apart and you should feel a stretch on the outer edge of your lats. And if you don't, then you probably need to lower the bar another 4, 5, or 6 inches. It's just not full range of motion if you're not going all the way down. And there's no way any form of a barbell row that you're getting full range of motion with the bar above the knee. Alright, next question. Can you explain the benefits of box squats for your back, knees in comparison to regular squats? Yeah, quite simply, if you're doing a box squat correctly and you're sitting back correctly onto the box, you're able to drive through the heels better, and your knees will almost always stay directly above your ankle. And the less knee travel you have, the less shearing stress you're putting on the knee. Now, a lot of people have strong enough knees that they can have a lot of knee travel on the squat without injuring their knees for 20 years. But not everybody has joints and connective tissue that strong. And if they don't, then knee travel is really a problem. So that's a bit of an individual thing. But generally, the less knee travel you have, the less shearing stress you put on the knee. And if you just look at the anatomy of it and the biomechanics, it will make sense. And then the other obvious secondary aspect of that is the fact that you recruit more posterior chain and hamstring on a box squat than you do on a conventional squat. So you're working what is often the weak link in that joint. Alright, next question. Best way to train grip strength. Obviously, a lot of that has to do with training without straps, but I also advocate the training of straps if your grip isn't strong enough to do the volume or workload that you're trying to do on a lot of pulling movements. So a lot of people are going to need some secondary grip work. And I would say some of the easiest stuff to do for that is things like barbell holds, to where you just load up 50 or 60% of your deadlift max and pull it up in a rack pull and hold it. Or even just deadlift it up and hold it until it pretty much slips out of your fingers. Farmer's walks, hanging from chin-up bars, particularly one-arm hangs, and squeezing tennis balls. These are your cheapest and easiest methods. Now, you can get special grip trainers like Captains of Crunch grippers and things if you need additional work, but most people shouldn't need that. Usually the only people who are going to need to go so far as to get specialized grip training equipment are going to be people who are equipped lifters. but most raw deadlifters, even at a serious competitive level, aren't going to need specialized equipment. They're just going to be able to do other stuff like I mentioned to get their grip where they want it. All right, next question. How much will it affect my cutting diet by swapping out a bunch of carbs for fats some days and vice versa as long as calories stay the same? Okay, biologically and directly in terms of energy, thermic effect, and other things, you generally want to squeeze as many carbs in as you can, particularly for your training performance. But that's also countered with the fact that for a lot of people, fat is more satiating. So while you might have better workouts getting a bit more carbs in when you're cutting, and you might put out a little more energy due to having more energy and more glycogen reserves when you're training, you might have hunger issues on it depending on the person. And if you're one of those people who are more satiated by fat, there might be advantages to consuming more fat in terms of controlling your appetite. So there's not a direct answer on that, other than I generally, unless it's a satiation issue, I generally push towards a bit more carbs when you're cutting, and keeping fats near the minimum of what you can get away with hormonally. But that is, again, purely looking at body composition and performance. That is not looking at satiation, which is a very, very individual thing. And honestly, I'm nitpicking there a little bit. In all honesty, what you're doing for most people probably isn't going to hurt. It might become more of an issue of fine-tuning it if you're trying to get really, really shredded. But if you're just on a normal cut and you're just trying to get abs, it probably won't matter how you stagger that, as long as you're in a deficit and you're hitting your basic needs and you feel okay. All right, last question. Game of Thrones, which house would you be? I chose this one because this is my and my wife's favorite show. While I really like the Starks and House Stark and all of that, just my own personal upbringing and the way I personally view politics and the way I deal with other people in political or professional situations, I would probably end up being a Lannister. And in a lot of ways I feel kind of like Tyrion when it comes to dealing with my family, because my father is a very, very cutthroat businessman. He's made millions of dollars in business, and he is a major asshole. I love my father, but he is a fucking asshole. And most people who've done business with my father will say he is a fucking asshole. I've heard CEOs of companies say that my father is a fucking asshole. So, he is very cutthroat, very political, and kind of expected me to be the same way. And it's funny because a lot of people who've dealt with me professionally actually think I am pretty cutthroat and ruthless when it comes to business, and that I play politics and play psychological games and things, but by my father's standards I'm not. And so therefore he really was always kind of disappointed in me in that regard. So in some ways I feel that I relate to the character Tyrion in dealing with his father Tywin Lannister. So in this case I kind of have to go with Lannister. Alright guys, that's really all I have to say on that today. I will crank out a part 2 for you guys also today, so I hope this has been informative, and I will talk to you next time.